The last few weeks are any indication, we could be in for a wild ride in 2026. I'm going to get into details about everything. Stick around. Here we go. Hey everyone, I'm Heather Taylor, founder of Tailored Realty Group, where we create real estate experiences tailored to who? That's right, tailored to you. We've got a lot to cover today, and we're going to start with our typical market update for the southwestern Raleigh suburbs of Morrisville, Cary, Apex, Holly Springs, and Fuquay-Varina. And then I'm going to share my predictions for the 2026 real estate market in this area. And finally, I'm going to hook up you buyers and sellers with some strategic tips on how to win in this market. Now, if you're a seller, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned because I have a free DIY staging guide that gives you tips about how to stage your home like a pro, and I'll share details on that at the end. I was actually trying to record this video outside, but the wind was getting crazy, so here I am sitting in my car. Anyway, as always, we'll begin with a look at the median home prices separated out by town and by type of home. Now remember, median means just as many homes sold over this price as sold under this price. Now you'll also notice on this chart, single family resale homes are highlighted in green to help you find them because most of my clients are looking for single family resale homes. Now these median prices will give you a ballpark idea of what you can purchase that particular type of home for in that particular town. All right, now that you've taken a look at the median home prices, let's take a look at the statistics that I believe truly help shape your buying and selling strategies. And those include the days of supply, the sales price to list price ratio, the number of homes selling over, under, and at list price. That's huge for your offer strategy buyers. And then the number of homes that have to have price reductions before going under contract. And that is huge for you, my seller friends. We're also going to take a look at the median days on market. Now, as you take a look at this chart, remember green arrows indicate the market moving more towards a seller's market or heating up. And those are green arrows, whether they're pointed up or down, they're indicating a trend towards a seller's market. And red arrows are the exact opposite. Whether they're pointed up or down, they're indicating a market slowdown or trending more towards a buyer's market. Now, on the chart this month, you're going to see a mix of red and green arrows, but I want to specifically draw your attention to the current months of supply on the top line. Now you see green arrows across that line, except for Fuquay-Varina, but those green arrows indicate the market is heating up as we end the year. Now, why do I specifically want to address that line? It's because unlike the rest of this chart, that first line contains current data because I pulled it 2 days ago, December 21st. That is current data for months of supply. Now, the rest of this chart contains that lagging data from closed sales in November. So when you take a look at that line, you see for a while, we were getting data that was showing the market trending more towards a balanced market or 4 to 6 months of supply and away from a seller's market. But what we're seeing here in December in current data is just the opposite. We are seeing the market trending back away from that balanced market of 4 to 6 months and more into the seller's market territory. So anyway, I'm encouraged by that data. But as far as the November close data, we are still seeing a large percentage of listings having to have price reductions in order to sell, ranging from 36% of listings in Holly Springs to 60% of listings in Morrisville. And increasingly, fewer homes are selling over list price. However, the median days on market seems to be trending in a better direction, and in most cases, it remains at or under 30 days. Now, we have been spoiled in the last few years, but 30 days on market is really not a long time. What we're seeing here is a market adjusting, not a market unraveling. And that distinction really matters, especially if you're trying to decide whether to buy, sell, or just sit tight. Before we start talking about market predictions for 2026, we have to talk about the real trigger behind every major housing crash and whether that trigger even exists here in the Raleigh area as we head into 2026. Because that's what everyone freaks out about, right? Is the real estate market going to crash? Real estate market crashes are emotional, but they are also very logical. And they almost always come down to one thing, and that is forced selling. So if you're wondering what causes forced selling, it's things like a major job loss or a major income drop or a spike in monthly payments due to rate resets if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, or the increasing cost of insurance and taxes, or life events like a divorce, a death in the family, or health issues. Prices don't just crash because buyers get cautious or because people feel like prices are too high. They crash when sellers have no choice and are forced to sell en masse because they can't afford their mortgage payments anymore. So, is Raleigh set up for loads of forced selling in 2026? Let's take a look at some important factors. First of all, unemployment in this area of the triangle remains lower than the national average, and the national average still remains below 5%. Now, it has crept up recently, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Wage growth in the triangle area has continued, even though it may be a little bit slower, but our job base is heavily skilled labor. We're talking about tech, biotech, healthcare, and education. Additionally, we continue to be one of the top states in the nation for net migration into our area. So considering all of these factors, I don't see the ingredients for widespread selling in 2026. Now, that does not mean prices will continue to go up as quickly as they have in the past, but it does mean a crash is unlikely based on what we know today. Now, I always tell people it's not probable, but it's possible. I mean, nothing is impossible. So you want to keep your ear to the ground with what's going on economically in our area and in the nation as a whole. So what can we expect in the real estate market in the Raleigh area in 2026? Well, I think there's some great things. I think buyers will be able to remain a little bit more selective. They'll be able to see houses more than once before making a decision. And contrary to what a lot of people think about real estate agents, we prefer it that way. We want you to have a chance to really take a look at the house you're interested in and make a wise decision. Trust me, we all sleep better at night when you have that opportunity. I think growth will continue to slow, and in certain areas, we may see modest price declines, but I think what we're looking at is a normalization of the market, not a crash. So before we wrap up this last market update of 2025, as promised, here's a little bit of advice for my buyer and seller friends. For my buyers, use price reductions as leverage. Once the price starts dropping, often sellers start to become more flexible. So don't be afraid to make that slightly more aggressive offer. It's just a starting point for negotiations. And speaking of negotiating, remember to negotiate smart. Terms matter as much as price sometimes, so you really want to understand what is most important to the seller situation and which negotiation tactics are most advantageous to your financial situation. For example, I did a video with my lender friend Christina Jasper a few months ago. I'll put a link to that somewhere up here. And we were talking about interest rate buydowns and the immediate impact they can have on your monthly mortgage payment versus a price reduction. So negotiate smart and pay attention to those houses with price reductions. And for my seller friends, pricing matters more than ever. Do not try to test the market. You'll end up chasing the market down, and that crushes your leverage, as I was talking about when I was giving the buyer's advice. Overpricing almost always ends up costing you. And finally, you probably get sick of hearing me say this, but presentation is everything. I have a DIY staging guide that's going to walk you through staging ideas to help you start preparing your home. I would highly recommend that you speak to a skilled agent to give you the final advice, but that guide will help you get started. And if you're even considering selling sometime in the next year, I think you will find it very helpful. The link to that is included in the comments below. And now a little piece of advice for both buyers and sellers, and that is don't try to time the real estate market. Real estate is a long-term game. Timing the real estate market sounds great in theory, but in practice, it is almost impossible. Prices dip, buyers hesitate, worried the prices are even going to fall further. And then when prices start rising again, that hesitation they had turns into a new fear. Did I miss my window? The reality is that the markets don't send clear buy now signals. The people who tend to do best in real estate aren't the ones trying to time the market perfectly. They're the ones who make thoughtful decisions based on their finances, their lifestyle, and their long-term goals. If you want help buying, selling, or just understanding how all of this information applies to your situation, please reach out, book a free consultation on my website. I would be happy to talk to you about all of this stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can keep your finger on the pulse of all the important information to help you make buying and selling decisions. And enjoy the holidays. I will see you in the new year. Bye.